James William Bailey was an American singer, film, television and stage actor, and female impersonator. Early years. Bailey was born on January 10, 1938, in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania to Sarah and Claude Bailey. He had one brother, Claude. As a teenager he studied opera at the Philadelphia Conservatory of Music, and was on the television program The Children's Hour for almost a year, where he performed by acting, singing and dancing. His family moved to Palmyra, New Jersey when he was 10 years old, and then Riverside Township, where he attended Riverside High School. Career. Bailey appeared in over 70 television and movie roles, including appearances on Ally McBeal, Here's Lucy, Night Court, The Rockford Files, Switch, Vega Dollar, The Tonight Show starring Johnny Carson, The Ed Sullivan Show, The Carol Burnett Show, The Merv Griffin Show, Late Night with David Letterman, The Mike Douglas Show, The Dean Martin Show and The Joan Rivers Show. Bailey's fame began in the late 1960s when he created the illusions of singers Judy Garland, Barbra Streisand, and Peggy Lee by vocally mimicking them in his own operatically trained voice. Bailey appeared on concert stages throughout the world, including headlining in Las Vegas, at hotels such as the Thunderbird, Caesars Palace, the Desert Inn, the Sands, Harrah's, the Dunes, and performing at New York's Carnegie Hall a total of 9 times and the Palladium Theatre in London a total of 17 times. Bailey also performed for the British royal family twice and for 4 United States presidents. History. From the mid to the late 1960s, 1966 through to 1968, Bailey played summer stock in such shows as The Boyfriend, Calamity Jane with Ginger Rogers, Bells Are Ringing and Wildcat with Gail Storm. During this time, Bailey was introduced to and became friends with Phyllis Diller. Bailey learned to recreate the comedienne, actress's personality and later added her to his repertoire. In 1968, Bailey moved to Los Angeles and put together a nightclub act with Michael Greer, performing at the Redwood Room, this time adding Judy Garland to his repertoire. When Garland herself came to see Bailey's show, she jumped up onto the stage and asked him to sing a song with her. Bailey agreed and the two sang a duet of Bye Bye Blackbird, which Bailey had intended on singing as himself. The two later became friends, and Garland became Bailey's mentor. The two remained friends until Garland's death in 1969. In 1970, Bailey was booked in Las Vegas and became an overnight sensation. He appeared on The Ed Sullivan Show, which helped launch an international career. His performance as Judy Garland's singing "The Man That Got Away" was such a phenomenon he was asked back a couple of months later to perform as Peggy Lee. He also performed as himself on both shows. Bailey's success continued as he appeared for performances at New York's Carnegie Hall, the London Palladium, and the Dorothy Chandler Pavilion in Los Angeles. While in London he performed on the legendary David Frost Show. He then guest-starred on the popular television variety show The Carol Burnett Show, where the two sang a comedic duet of Happy Days Are Here Again, with Bailey appearing as Barbra Streisand, and made several appearances on Johnny Carson's The Tonight Show. Bailey was approached by Lucille Ball in 1973 after she saw him at the Dorothy Chandler Pavilion and asked him to guest star on her popular television show, Here's Lucy. Ball was so impressed by Bailey and his performance, she titled the show Lucy and Jim Bailey, and she also threw a party for him after the show's taping. The two remained close friends until Ball's death in 1989. Bailey also became very close friends with Ball's daughter Lucy Arnaz. The two remained close friends doing benefit performances in honor of her late mother and father at the Lucy Desi Festival in Jamestown, New York. In 1973, Bailey was asked to return to Carnegie Hall for 2 nights to perform again. This time, he was approached by United Artists to record and release his performance. The album became a success and was sold worldwide. Also in 1973, Bailey teamed with Liza Minnelli, daughter of his mentor Judy Garland, in Las Vegas at the Flamingo. The two put together a concert recreating the performances by Minnelli and her late mother in London, with Bailey standing in as Garland. The Judy and Liza concert met with great success. They opened the show with Jim as Judy singing, "Well, Hello Liza," just as they had done at the Palladium years earlier. Later, Minnelli made a gift to Bailey of one of her late mother's treasured pearl rings. The mid-1970s saw Bailey as a mainstay in showrooms in Las Vegas. It was at this time he was named Las Vegas Entertainer of the Year. He was also booked for concerts around the world, including the O'Keefe Centre in Toronto, Canada, and venues in Australia and South America. In the next few years, Bailey returned to acting in more episodic television work in character roles that were created especially for him because of the uniqueness of his talent. They include Switch in 1978 with Robert Wagner, Eddie Albert, and Sharon Gless, Vega Dollar in 1979 with Robert Urich, and The Rockford Files in 1979 with James Garner. Bailey also performed at some major venues. He performed at Super Bowl XII, as Barbra Streisand, and himself did a show for Queen Elizabeth II of the United Kingdom and her husband the Prince Philip, Duke of Edinburgh, as Barbra Streisand and himself. He performed at the 1984 Winter Olympics opening ceremony, and at the People's Choice Awards. He also returned to Carnegie Hall and the London Palladium, doing multiple nights at each venue. In the late 1980s, Bailey turned his sights once again to feature films, including a role on TV's Night Quarters. Chip, Charlene, Dan's friend from college who had had a sex change, Vultures in Paradise with Stuart Whitman and Yvonne De Carlo, The Surrogate with Shannon Tweed, and Penitentiary 3 with Anthony Geary and Leon Isaac Kennedy. Since Barbra Streisand was not performing on the nightclub and concert circuit in the mid-80s, Bailey decided to recreate some of her great movie performances and adapt them to his stage performances. In the late 80s he also toured with the musical Nightclub Confidential. 10 years later, in 1995, Bailey would perform at an event for Streisand and other stars, like Clint Eastwood and Warren Beatty. Also in the 1990s, Bailey performed for Diana, Princess of Wales, and Prince Charles in London. He again performed at Carnegie Hall and the London Palladium, as well as another long stints for the Sands in Las Vegas and Harrah's in all of their main showrooms. After touring extensively in the 1990s, Bailey opened the Jim Bailey Theatre in Palm Springs, California, but closed the theatre just 10 months later, when offers were coming in for more theatrical work. At the start of the new millennium, Bailey did a guest-starring role on Ally McBeal as Harold Dale, and an episode of Duckman. He continued with concerts and theatre performances, including a critically acclaimed performances in Charles Rome Smith's Tallulah and Tennessee, co-starring Bette Garrett as Estelle Winwood, Mae West at the Club El Fay and Me and Jezebel. Other theatrical work includes Jeffrey and Fragile Fire, directed by Paul Winfield. Bailey continued performing his characterizations, including benefits for AIDS research charities around the world. In July 2008, Bailey was slated to appear in Hollywood, London, New York and San Francisco, marking 40 years since he first performed as Garland in 1968. In June 2009, Bailey played London's West End for the 40th anniversary of Judy's death. Susie Boyd from The Times wrote, "There is nothing camp or stagey about his act. It can scarcely even be described as an act. For Bailey inhabits Garland's persona to such an extent that, well, there she is. It is a supreme illusion, a sort of perfect madness." Bailey died at his home in Los Angeles, California on the 30th of May 2015 from complications due to pneumonia. He was 77 years old. He is survived by his brother Claude and manager of 27 years Stephen Campbell. Discography: 1972 Jim Bailey, 1973 Jim Bailey Live at Carnegie Hall, 1986 Mostly Mercer, 1997 Club Verboten, 1998 Voices, 2002 Judy Jim Judy. Singles 1972, Every Minute Every Day, 1972, When I Found You, 1973, Love Song, 1988, All I Ask of You.